are here at the Smoke on the Osage, Osceola, Missouri, at a contest. It's Friday night. We got a couple great teams here with us. I've got Joel Fleetwood from Meet Rushmore here, and I've got Ryan Cain from Damn Fine Beef and Swine, and they are replacing perfectly Bree, Vi, and Jamie. I won't say the problems we had earlier today. When we had a 45-minute conversation with some nice folks, and we may or may not have it.
Oh, shit. Ryan and I are the Dollar General, Bree and Jamie.
The Dollar General, Bree and Jamie. Yeah,
I just wonder which one of you is Bree and which one of you is Jamie.
Okay, yeah, they are interchangeable.
We'll find out tonight.
They're pretty.
How big are your tits?
They're pretty loose. They're interchangeable.
Ryan's obviously Bree.
Yeah. Okay.
Ryan literally came in with the rubber gloves.
Yeah, that's true.
He looked like he came from the doctor's office.
He was literally loaded, ready to go.
Yeah, that B cup's B for barbecue.
Yeah. I am Greg Hasty from American Fire Barbecue, and we're glad to be out here again. A few weeks ago, we were in. Why do I keep forgetting? Where were we? Lenexa. Lenexa, Kansas, at the great Lenexa Barbecue Battle, and we have one of those guys who happened to be on the show. We had Shane LeClaire from Damn Yankee Texas Barbecue, and we had Ryan from Damn Fine on there, and those two damn teams did pretty good that damn day. And Ryan King, grand champion that contest, did a great job. And Shane LeClaire from Texas actually come in third. So they wrapped up and they had a pretty good showing.
How annoying were those awards?
Oh, they were long.
No, I'm saying how many times it damn fine.
Damn,
Yankee.
Damn something. Damn everything.
For most of the awards, the announcer was calling the city that you were from beforehand. So it'd say from Lee Summit. So you'd kind of preface and you know a little bit. But when he gets down to third, he doesn't call it. And so it's damn, and my asshole tightens up. And then he says damn Yankee, and I was like, oh shit. And we're sitting there, and Joe and a bunch of people are going, hey, Ryan. I was like, shut up. I just stared at the ground until we heard it, and it was only about 1/10 of a point. So, I'll take lucky every day.
Right.
I feel like that's a constant thing in barbecue where everyone starts congratulating you, and when it's like mostly you never want them to. Like you always want them just to shut up unless you get your call.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Guys, you may wonder who we're talking to. I'll just bring them in. I was going to talk about Butler for a brief second. There was a lot. No, let's not talk about Butler at all.
Other than congratulations to the people sitting here.
Congratulations. That's what I was going to say. Joel Fleetwood
I've
got
been
his
back to back. Let's just throw that in there.
Yeah, let's put it on there. He's on a rager. He pulled off grand championship in Cameron, and then turned around the very next week, pulled off day one in Butler, Missouri. So congrats to the Meet Rushmore gang of 18. They do a great job when they're out there.
I'm just happy for all of Katie's teammates.
Exactly.
All of Katie's teammates.
We did a good job of being solidly middle pack on day 2. So, the horseshoe fell out.
Yeah. So good. Congratulations on that. And I think who wound up day 2? That might have been one of the guys sitting at this table. We're going to bring in, we've got 2 of them. We got 2 of the best. We've got Jordan Kirkpatrick from, oh my God.
Jesus.
Janky Leg. Sorry.
Did you just have an aneurysm?
I just had a stroke.
Did you have a stroke? I mean, he was like,
what is his
and I
name?
was thinking, this guy was just telling us how great his podcast is. And now I'm done. Fuck this.
And now I'm done. Yeah. No, so Jordan
just left.
Jordan's out. We got Jordan from Janky Leg BBQ, and he's doing fantastic this year. He's hot again like he was last year, and he's in the middle of that chase and doing well. And he pulled off the win day 2 out there in Butler and is looking for one again this weekend. We also got Chris Schaefer from Heavy Smoke BBQ out here. The has-been.
You don't forget that name. You do not forget that name.
We brought him out of retirement, I think, this week. You haven't been cooking a whole lot, have you?
No, I cooked last weekend, Eureka, Illinois. I cooked in Colorado Father's Day weekend.
Yep.
And then I cooked a couple, I guess, in May. But, yeah, I mean, I've got 2 comps in the last, 7 weeks. It's been great.
Well, exactly. And you're only doing one day today. Yeah. One day this weekend.
Well, my daughter went to the kids' queue, but she didn't want to stay for the whole weekend. So the great thing about not points chasing is like, cool, cook the kids' queue. We'll cook one day and we'll go home.
Must be nice. I was fighting to try, Joel wins 2 in a row, and I'm like, man, you have to cook next week. You realize that, right? I know your team doesn't want to do it, but you need to cook. Take my spot. You can take my spot. I hate doubles. I despise them. I can't stand them. But I wanted to cook and I wanted to get out and cook. And so we're here. And this was actually supposed to be.
Not to cut you off, we literally have paparazzi, Chris's daughter's over there taking taking pictures of
she taking pictures? Go
I bet it's not the camera. I bet she's holding up a timer.
Oh, is she?
She told me an
probably
hour.
is. She
Literally said, hey, if it looks like it's going to go longer than an hour, tell them you have to leave.
Tell them you have to leave. I need to go to bed. Yeah.
I caught her at her by peripheral, and I looked over there, and she was like giving the old double snap, and then she saw me and ran to the side.
Is she putting that on the Book of Faces? Do you think? Is she putting that on the Book of Faces?
She is not on Facebook. That is not
I am
happening.
happy to hear you say that. I really am. So cool. It's great to have you guys here. It's an honor. It's really a privilege to have you here, and we want to get to talk to you. So I know I know Chris a little bit. Let's let Jordan tell us. How'd you get into barbecue? What is your thing? How'd you start this journey and get off to where you're going here? I mean, you're running a lot. You're running every week, it seems like, right?
Yeah, pretty much. So in 2018, I sold for a large dealership, a Chrysler dealership, and pretty much worked 6 days a week. And my sales manager, he was actually the guy who really got me interested in it. He was kind of the guy that would bring in, smoked meats from the weekend, and everyone just raved about it. And I didn't really, to be honest, I was just more of like a cook. I didn't know much about managing a fire or anything like that. And we worked a bunch, and long and short of it was really didn't have many days off but Sundays, and he had a nice pool, and me and Allie, we got along with him and his wife, so we would go over, drink beer, and smoke a little bit of meat. Anyway, long and short of it, we did that like 4 or 5 weekends in a row, and I had seen on Facebook that a little backyard contest at a bar had come up, and I was like, dude, that looks awesome. And he was like, I fucking hate people. Like, I don't want to go and be around all these people. I'm like, yeah, but like, it will be fun. And he's like, yeah, this is your thing. He's like, but that does sound badass. And I'll pit masters like everybody else, So anyway, we went and did that. And I had bought a smoker, I think about 4 days before that. We had practiced on his, and I was like, dude, fuck this. I want to have a badass pit. Like, so I get on Marketplace and we go and buy this smoker, and this is where Janky Leg come from. It was on a utility trailer, and I mean, it was a piece of shit. And so I called the guy, I messaged the guy on Facebook. He had it for $1,000, and I was like, I will give you $500 and I will come tonight. And he was like, no, so we negotiated. Anyway, I went and bought it for like $600. And so when we got it, the one wheel was kind of like rickety. So I had talked to a guy, and I was like, man, can you like weld this thing up for me so it's legit? He's like, oh, for sure. Like, I'll take care of it. So I tell my buddy Brian, I'm like, I'm getting this fixed. Everything's going to be good. Like, we're going to go. It's good to go. So we drove, I think it was like an hour and a half. We drove to this deal at like 4 in the morning. I remember we pulled up, and we seen a porch trailer the first thing when we pulled in, and I was like, leave. We are fucking, we came to the wrong place. And he was like, no, we're here. We literally stopped at Walmart and bought an axe to split wood at like 3:30 in the morning. So anyway, we get there. It's like 4:45. And this guy is like, all right, man, you're going to park right here. You can unload your pit. Everything will be good. Like, this is your area. I'm like, okay. So we drop the gate, and me and him go to shove this thing off. And as soon as we shove it, like, the wheel snaps off, and the smoker literally falls off the trailer like instantly. Like, everyone's looking at you, and I'm like, motherfucker. I was like, Brian, he's like, you dumbass. He acted like he didn't even know me. He just walked away. So everyone like comes over, and they're like trying to help me get it back up, and I'm like, we just got to get it. And the organizer, now that I know, he was probably like, these fucking people. So we get it put up. Long and short, we do the cook. We end up getting a third place port call, and that smoker smoked from every orifice except a stack. I mean, the guy next to me was coughing. At one point, he was like, hey, buddy. I was like, yeah, man. I was like, how's everything going? He was cooking on pellet grills. He was like, do you know how to run a fire? I was like, no. He's like, yeah, I know. He was like, I cannot quit coughing. This is awful. I was like, oh, it's bad. He's like, it's terrible. So anyway, we leave that. We ended up having to try to get that pit back on the trailer. It was a disaster. Me and Allie drove it home. I busted a belt on my utility trailer tire on the way home, so it started bouncing. Like, the only thing I can think is like the old Ice Cube video where he's like at the drop top. We broke like 4 ratchet straps. I actually had somebody pass us at like 9:30 at night. preface this, Allie was fucking hammered drunk. Like, I was pissed and went to get to the utility trailer, and I heard our team name, which was like Little Smoky or some stupid shit. And these two chicks were like, hey, that's the name on your shirt. I was like, oh, fuck, we got a call. So I take off running back, and there's this fence. No one could see this on video, but probably had about 8 inches, and my big ass was trying to squeeze through it. And this old drunk guy that was at the bar, he's like, hey, buddy, I don't think you're going to fit through there. I was like, yeah, no shit. So I run around outside the bar. I go up. I'm like, you guys call my name. He goes, hey, buddy, your girlfriend was already grandstanding. She's up here. She was actually on the promo for the next year, drunk, dancing with the Sophie.
Dancing on the stage.
So anyway, I get home. I'm going to make it short now. We get home. We pull into the driveway, and I'm like, that was a lot of work. She's still drunk. She's like, I love it. I was like, you think we want to keep doing this? She's like, yeah. And this is where the Jack story comes in. I was like, but I don't really like our team name. She's like, what about Janky Leg?
Right.
And I was like, fuck yeah.
Right.
And so anyway.
So that was kind of part of that. Is the first part of the story I heard was watching the awards at the Jack, man. That cracked me up so much.
Yeah. So at the Jack, man, I mean, Chris was there. That guy was kind of a dick. You
Well,
know?
yeah.
He was
He's a
like,
smartass.
what's
Yeah.
the story or whatever? And I was like,
You don't need it.
I was like, oh, man. Like, I was trying to cop out. I was like, oh, that's kind of a long story. He's like, make it short. I was like, all right, you fucking want it. So I give it to him. But anyway, after that, then we just started right in. I literally, that next day, I was like Googling barbecue
What year
competitions.
was this?
2018. Actually, that was in 17. And then we started in barbecue in Effingham, Illinois, our first comp.
Right.
Anyway, started that, found KCBS. And my buddy was like, man, I don't know that I want, like, I told you he didn't like people.
Right.
And hats off to him. I mean, he really helped me in the beginning. Like, we both had that drive. And, there's times that I'd really like to see him have came along with that because he was a good cook in his own right. But, me and Allie just decided we're going all in. And my buddy Team Wolf that cooks with us, he's our neighbor, and he'd been a friend of mine for 20 years. I had actually had that pit. What's crazy is I bought that cheap. I spent like $2,800, and I had a fabricator like make this thing like badass. I turned it into like a cabinet model. I was
That same smoker?
yes.
What are you doing?
The one leaking everywhere
Listen,
that wouldn't burn.
it was
out of the
badass.
set.
I turned it into like a.
Do you still have it?
I sold it to a buddy of mine. I know where it's at though.
Idiot.
It doesn't even look the same, but nonetheless, I turned it from like one big hinge to like a cabinet smoker. I can't. That HBT, I pretty much stole their whole design and was just sent the picture to this fabricator. Like, oh yeah, I can do it. Now that I know what I know, now I'm like, damn it, I just bought a brand new pit. Yeah, stupid, dumb. Anyway, Allie was pissed. She's like, you've literally put almost $4,000 into this thing and you sold it for $1,500. I was like, don't judge me, don't judge me.
It's barbecue.
But yeah,
It's
so now we're-
I was going to say,
That's
barbecue is dumb.
Barbecue
That's a
is done.
solid return on investment for barbecue.
Hey man, hell yeah, yeah. So now here we are, 2023, and
That's pretty cool.
You know,
How many have you done
I think like 105, 106
already?
Mhm.
Wow. Yeah, you've been out grinding. I know that. You've been out on the road.
Yeah, man. I mean, just like anything, I'm all in. About like anybody else. So first couple of years, it was Hayes did his first barbecue comp at 2 months old, so we were like, what's happening?
Yeah.
And here we are. He's running around like he owns the place.
He does.
He does.
He does. He's the sweetest kid in the world. I had dinner last night. He's a neat kid. We all know Chris Schaefer from what is that? All that for 6 pieces of chicken or barbecue.
That was.
I got that wrong.
Yeah, we
Just
all know, and I
all
just
that,
adding to it.
Just adding to it. All that for 6 pieces, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. It's a great podcast. I love it.
It might be coming back.
Nope, I hope it is. I hope it is. You and Rob are great on that thing, so I appreciate listening to it and you get the big dogs out there. So, like I said, I don't even know what questions to ask you. Shit, I don't even know what to talk about because I don't get to. I don't get to hang with
canned questions.
I don't get to hang out with you.
Can I
guys.
tell a story about you?
No, honey, so tell a story
Yes,
about me.
do it.
But yeah,
He's
go
like,
ahead.
move on.
Do you
move
know a
on.
story I'm going to tell?
No, I don't.
All right, so this is one of the funniest things, maybe the funniest thing I've ever seen at a competition. And I told this story no less than 400 times. And I'm at a competition, and I tell this story, and Greg goes, that was me. I was talking about him. I didn't realize. I didn't know Greg. So I am at the Sam's Club in St. Charles, the Sam's Club tour that they had. And I'm parked here, and there's a guy ahead of me, and they had like a toy hauler, and the door goes down, whatever. We turn in whatever category it was, and we're just kind of sitting there waiting for the next one. And this guy comes running down that porch. He's late. He's going to miss turn-ins. And I'm like, you better run. Guy takes off running. He gets up. It's a Sam's Club. As soon as he gets there, this guy, the cart guy, starts pushing in like 100 carts in between him and the turn-ins, and this guy's just hopping and like holding his box, like shit. What do I do? I'm like, you're fine. Come on. That one barely gets out, and a guy starts the other way with like another 100 carts.
He's blocked. Literally, I sent Buddy out my trailer with less than 30 seconds.
He can't get to turn-ins. They let him go. They let him turn it in. But dude, it was like a comic. I mean, 100 carts this way, 100 carts this way. He can't get through. He's literally hopping up and down like, how do I get around these carts? So I'm in Sugar Creek, Missouri 2 years ago, and there's 15 people sitting around a fire, and I start telling that story, and I get done, and Greg just goes, that was me.
That was me. That was us. I took Buddy down with me to St. Charles. That was my first year.
The funny thing was, so that was 2015. 2015, and at this point, I'd met Greg. We'd become friends, and so when I tell it, he says that was me. At the time, I didn't know. But I mean, we're talking a couple years into our friendship. So like, it's just funny that I just randomly told that story at that time.
And Buddy told me there was one of the gentlemen that was there, an older guy, and I can't remember his name, what team he was. He had, and I went over and thanked him, but he had stopped cars because in between both sets of carts there was cars, and Buddy's like you said, he's going, I don't know what to do, and I'm trying to go around, and like you said, another one was coming, then cars were coming, and this guy stood up and goes, stop, and he goes, come on, man, you got to go. So Buddy took off and got up there, and they were like 1, 2, 1, and Buddy put it on the table like right after one, and I guess Dennis, Polson, and Linda they kind of looked at each other and they went, and they looked at Michael McD. They looked at McD, and they looked at him and said, "What are we doing?" McD's like, well, "It's your contest." That's what Buddy tells me. It's your contest. And the one guy came back up and said, "Listen, there was carts and cars. You had him blocked. There was no way he was getting in here." And they went, "All right, you're good." And then they left it go in 1 second. And Buddy come back, and it took forever. And I was in the front row, and it took forever. And I was like, "Oh."
Here's the thing.
Shit,
so
we DQ'd.
You ever been to a Sam's Club? It's like the first parking spots here, like the doors here. I'm like, we are the first two teams. And so he's 12 seconds from turn-ins. Greg hands it to him in 30 seconds, like it's gonna be okay. But he's gone for 6 minutes or whatever.
Oh,
but dude, we literally sat in our lawn chairs at our site and just watched the whole thing play out.
And it's so funny. Like you said, a couple years later, we're sitting around a fire telling stories like we do. And that's the thing that we're trying to do now with this, right?
Yeah.
This is Friday night. We want to talk about them stories. I want to let you tell about yourself. You're very big in the St. Louis circuit before you ever came to KCBS, and up until maybe even this year, a little bit last year, you were running hard too and trying to chase that glory with all these guys that, Brad and Tim and Brad and Joe and all them that are out here. And you got a great restaurant, and I get it, right? As business owners, that's got to be our priority. And you got a great restaurant I've been down to. I loved it. I love the food, and I love what you did. So,
but it gets to a point like you start thinking of end game. You know what I mean? Like the last 4 years, I think I cooked like 140, 150 comps. You know, and like George got a successful car dealership, but they sell more cars when he's there.
Right.
And my employees are better when I'm there. Right. And the customers love when I'm there shaking hands. You know what I mean? They love that. And so you start thinking end game, and it's like, man, I'd love to be team of the year. I chased it hard for a few years. It's still a goal of mine, and I might circle back to it. But I was tired, and this was the year to be like, man, let's pull back. Let's cook the ones we want. Let's go to some kids' cues, and things like that. Yeah. And it's been an awesome year, to be honest. And I haven't won a comp yet, but we're top 10 every week, and I got a few RGCs, and to still have some success cooking half the comps you used to, or even less than that, it still feels good.
Mentally and emotionally, you're probably better too. I mean, we don't want to get deep, but mentally and emotionally, you're probably better. You needed a break, probably. I
had this 3-week period where, and I can't remember the last time this happened. It was a 3-week period where I had no comps. The first weekend, my business partner was off, so I was in the restaurant Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The next weekend, I was like, hey, man, I don't have a comp. You need me here? And he's like, you were here all weekend. You're good. I'm like, so you don't need me at all? He's like, no. Well, my daughter went out of town for like a Girl Scout thing. And so it was me and my wife, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, no kid, no comp, nothing to do. You
When's
know,
the last time? Yeah, exactly.
Where's that sound effect?
When's the last time that
I
happened?
haven't heard that sound. The headache started a while back, and that sound went away. But no. So I mean, there you go. But you know, it was like we went out to a real nice dinner, and we were able to do all that, right? So my daughter gets back from that Girl Scout thing on Sunday, and then she goes to Tennessee for a full week with her friend's family. And so she's gone, and so we have a whole week without the kid. Well, the next weekend rolls around, I'm like, hey, man, I don't got a comp. You want me in the restaurant? And my partner's like, man, you've been working your ass off. You're good. And I'm like, 2 weekends in a row, no restaurant, no kid. I mean, like,
No comp.
no comp.
Right.
I mean, it was just like 10 days of like me and my wife, and like, you know, the garage never looked cleaner. You know what I mean? And like, but I don't remember a time like that in maybe the last 8-9 years.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So,
That was a long time.
you talk about like, you know, what it does for you mentally.
Yep.
I mean, I come back recharged, and the next comp I cook after that, like, I don't even care if I win, but I'm in the mindset that
You're ready to go.
yeah, I'm ready.
You're
you
ready.
know what I mean?
So get your shit together. We got to get this done. You got to be on your game.
You're only letting me cook pork.
Whatever, dude.
Well,
I'm
that's
gonna
the-
teach you
that's
how
the
to run
category you
we'll
should
teach
be
you how to
doing.
run teach you how to run a real pit. And you know what? I'll say this: getting to watch you last year win the Jack was something special, and I know it was. And yeah, maybe talk about that a little bit. But I know sitting at home, we all dream about the Jack, right? And watching you both do very well. You know, sitting there watching it, and then coming down to it, and Beck and I both just, man, this is Chris. This is Chris. This is Chris. And hell, I think I might even have a little tear when he got up and walked up there, and I was like, man, this guy, you watch him grind and work so hard, and you got a great family, and you're sacrificing that time away to do it and chase that, and then to get that Jack was just incredibly proud of you for getting that done.
I appreciate that, man. And like, to even add to that, it's no secret. Last July, I bought the trailer I have now, and something happened. I immediately fell off. And, you know, when I bought that trailer, I was in first place for team of the year.
Right.
And after 2 months, I was in 10th. And it was like, I couldn't win a comp to save my life. I popped one RGC, and I thought I was cooking out of my mind, right? And you could ask Jordan, man, like, I would literally be like, dude, I don't know how to do it better. And I'd been cooking so much and so hot that, like, I know my shit's good. You know what I mean? And I'd go and I'd get a 1 call, 12th overall, and I'd be like, dude, like, I don't want to do this anymore, you know? And we ended up switching to gateways, which I'd been wanting to do for a long time, off the homemade pits.
Right.
I think that helped us a lot. I think something had with our homemade drums and the pit masters that we ran on them and the trailer.
It's not the same.
Something wasn't right.
Right.
And so we switched to the gateways literally 2 comps before the Jack. And to go in.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
guess I didn't know that.
Yeah, I switched to gateways. I actually I called Tim, and I told Tim at the end of the year I was switching to gateways, and his exact words was, "Yeah, buddy, it's time," you know. And so I told him I was switching at the end of the year. Well, I go to a comp and I turn in what I think's amazing food, and get hammered pretty bad. And I called Tim. I was like, I need 4 drums for the Royal. Like I just need 4 gateways for the Royal, and he's like, all right, they're done. I picked him up on the way to Murfreesboro, Illinois. Like, literally offloaded my drums, went to Tim's shop, picked up 4 drums, went to Murfreesboro. I pull up in this trailer that looks brand new. And I'm cutting open drums on the porch. And the guy behind me is looking over like, was this guy new? Like, did he pick up this trailer and these drums on the way, you know?
Right.
And Steve Hayden drives by, and I go, you ever seen anybody cut open new drums on their porch before? He goes, yeah, Brad.
Yeah, right.
So I cooked Murfreesboro.
So rich.
Yeah, I cooked Murfreesboro. We get a couple calls. I go to the Royal, and you know, we have our best finish at the Royal, which is like a 29th overall, because I haven't had a ton of success there. And then we roll on the Jack and win the Jack. And I truly think, you know, getting on the gateways combined with the trailer, and then, you know, this year we had a couple weird finishes, but we've been pretty hot, and I feel like you know, we're back on it. But then the Jack, man, you talk about the Jack all day long.
Joel and
It
I
was crazy.
Joel and I watched awards from a winery with our wives. We couldn't care less about anything that was going on. The bands were playing. We're just sitting there, both on our phones, going, "Who got that call? Who got that call? Oh, that was Schaefer. Okay, who got that call?" It was pretty funny, and it was fucking awesome to watch.
I have a great Ryan Cain story.
Oh,
great.
is there?
So the week before the Jack, I had to make my flyer for my class, right? And so my plan was to put it out the Monday after the Jack, regardless of Jack results, right? So we win the Jack, and I'm walking back to the trailer, and I have 200 text messages, right? And I'm just kind of scrolling through, and I see Ryan's, and it just says, "I'll update your flyer tomorrow." And then I dropped that class on Monday, and everybody was like, "Oh, how'd you put that together so fast?" I'm like, "Dude, it was planned." But yeah, he said, "I'll update your flyer tomorrow," and I was like, "Yeah, man."
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Ryan's great.
The Jack, dude, like, and I've said it on some other podcasts and shit too, but like, I don't know how to explain the feeling of winning the Jack other than like Jordan's sitting, you're probably 100 yards from me at awards.
Oh, really?
And so Jordan's like on the complete opposite side. After I got the brisket call and I get down, I sit down, I notice Jordan standing right behind me. And you look over and Joe's standing right there. And it's like everyone just starts gravitating to you because they want to be there to congratulate you,
right.
you know? And Brad said it, we did a podcast the other night. He explained it that like there's big stages, the Royal, Memphis in May, like there's a lot of big stages. The Jack's more intimate. Like the stage isn't huge, but like your trip from your seat to the stage is like none other.
Yeah, right.
You know?
It's an epic deal.
And like I didn't cry that day, right?
Right.
But dude, no less than 50 times since then, I've thought, man, I want the fucking Jack, and I'll tear up. Like I'll be driving down the road and think about it and be like,
I think I had a little tear. Becky was looking at me and she's like, "What?" And I was like, this is a dude I know. This is a guy that we've been riding with, and it was the same with Joe, and it was the same with Brad, right? Yeah. I mean, Brad wins all the time, so it's kind of hard to get emotional about Brad winning shit. He wins all the time, so somebody needs to go kneecap him and take him out every now and then. But when you won it, it was just kind of a deal, and you're watching it, and you see your family there, and Pops is great, and we know these people, and we get to see this, and it's just a neat deal. And we want to be there, right? We wish we were there, and we want to see it. And when you get to see a friend have that kind of success, it's at a place like the Jack. Right. It's pretty cool.
I don't know if you've heard this story, but they call Goo Googly Goo for a reserve.
Yeah. Right.
And my daughter taps me on the knee, and I lean over. I'm like, "Hey, what's up, baby?" And she goes, "Yeah, can we leave?" And I said, "What?" And she's like, "I'm hungry and I'm tired." And I was like, "Well, they're about to announce the winner." And she goes, "I thought that was the winner." And I was like, "No, they got one more." And she's like, "Okay." But I didn't want to be like, "We got one more, and it's probably me." You know what I mean? Yeah, she goes, "Can we leave?" And I'm like, "What?"
Jordan, what do you cook on? What do you?
I cook on a outlaw offset pit, and then I cook my chicken on a gateway.
Oh, you do cooking the chicken on gateway? Have you always done that?
I've never cooked a piece of chicken on an offset ever.
Really? Oh,
no.
Cool.
No, I went to I guess probably 2019. I started cooking on a gateway.
Yeah.
He might not own up to this, but about 3 years ago we were at a comp and he was struggling with chicken on a gateway, and I gave him one piece of advice, and this dude's been beating me in chicken like a drum for 3 straight years.
It worked.
I gave you one piece of advice. He's like, "Hey, my chicken's kind of doing X," and I was like, "Try this." Game over.
Yeah.
Now I can't touch the guy's chicken.
It was good. It was a good piece of advice. I won't deny it.
Are you going to give it out?
Yeah, leave a little more fat on the skin.
Leave a little more fat?
Yep.
Are you trimming the side, the heavy side, the ridge on the side, and the angle ridge? You'll fillet them off, or are you leaving them on there?
When you cook on a gateway and you cook as hot as most of us do, if you don't leave fat on that skin, the actual top layer of the chicken gets tough or dry, right? And that's what was happening to Jordan. And you can ask him, as soon as he's like, "Man, it's weird, the top of the chicken's just a little," I was like, "Leave fat on the skin." And he's like, "Oh." Yeah. And then now Jordan's the baddest dude.
So not really. I was pulling. I wasn't scraping it like a lot of people. A lot of people want it scraped all the way off. I didn't feel like we were, but once we adjusted and kind of just pulled back to very, very minimal, knocking off the big chunks, Yeah. And it was, and Chris not wrong. I mean, it was like instantly.
Literally, like the next cop, they're like, "First place chicken, Janky Leg," and I was like, "I should have shut up."
It was good. I mean, it was. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. It's a janky day.
Thank you.
So being as close to St. Louis as you are, did you cook any SLBS before, or just go all KCBS?
I cooked 3, and I got the absolute break speed off of me each one.
Did you guys know each other before KCBS cooking and recently, or did you guys meet on the trail?
Yeah, we met on the trail. Jordan and I had been at comps together and not really met. and then you came to my class.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so I met Jordan at the class, and then obviously the next comp, it's like, hey, what's up? And then we got real close real fast.
Yeah.
You know,
There's a couple
to where
nights-
like it's one of those things like when I leave a comp, I've got 3-4 people I call. Jordan's one of them. You know what I mean?
We had a
but-
couple nights where we just, sat in chairs bullshitting around.
Right.
And it was like, Chris obviously cooks on cans, and I would you'd look down and you're like, shit.
Right.
Chris was like, dude, you should probably go to bed.
Yeah, he don't go to bed till 11. I'm like,
You
listen,
should go to bed.
We got. He starts walking around at 9:30, and I'm like, dude, that's where I'm heading to bed. And I want to talk to him, but I'm like, at some point I need to go to bed.
Well, that's the good
Joe
thing
tells
about-
me go to bed.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
supposed to go to bed.
So that's the great thing about barbecue in general. Like, I mean, everyone has said it, in the beginning you have barbecue friends and you have friends,
Right.
whatever. Man, the way I look at it is like you're a friend, you're a friend. I don't give a shit where we met, but
Right.
I mean,
Well-
you get to meet people, and like me and Chris, I mean, what I'm telling you is there's a couple nights we sat and talked and like got, deep conversation where you're like, holy shit, like you walk in your trailer. I remember one night I went in and like I laid down, and Allie's like, where the fuck have you been? I'm like, me and Schaefer were talking. I was like, listen to this shit. Like, we have a lot in fucking common,
Yeah. Jordan and I've said it from the beginning. I was like, we're like the same dude. And I'll never forget Jordan's like, I'm nothing like you. I think it's one of those comps where like I'm known for like, I'm going to talk shit to everybody. I'm going to give you shit. And then sometimes I don't realize that it's bothering you and I keep doing it anyways. Like and I've learned that about myself. It was one of those, and Jordan's like, I'm nothing like you. But we're both sales guys. We sales our whole lives. We're big dudes. Like you start talking similarities. Me and Jordan have a ton in common.
Yeah.
We're both maniacal. Like if I'm all in, I'm all in.
Mm-hmm.
We're both that guy. So our similarities are crazy. Only his wife likes to come to comps. Mine doesn't.
Right. Yeah.
Did you follow that I'm nothing like you up with Dad?
Barbecue
so.
dad.
Barbecue dad.
But to Jordan's point, though, man, like I've had tons of barbecue friends that are now friends. You know what I mean? Like it's, I have bad days, and it's like I call a guy that used to be a barbecue friend. You know what I
Right,
mean? It's
right.
like it's amazing over 10, 12 years of doing this how close you get to everybody.
Oh,
Well, it's
Yeah.
just like, so
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get too personal, but like we just had a good friend have
Yeah.
someone, they lost someone extremely important to them, and like I mourn that for them.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know,
Oh,
like
100%.
and he's literally, I mean, it's like I told him was like, fuck, almost get choked up now. It's like those relationships, and I think it comes with longevity of barbecue. When you first start in barbecue, you're like, oh, this is pretty badass.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to go out and meet some people.
Yeah.
And then you really sit down and like, I mean, me and Joel have became really good friends. We talk quite a bit. And like, it's just one of those things. Like you hear people ask like, what's the one thing about barbecue? That is a question on many a podcast. And people are just like, oh, it's the people. And it's so cliche, but it is so true because relationships, like Chris said, I mean, I've been in sales my whole life, and people are like, oh, you're a salesman. No, I'm actually a relationship specialist.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I
Right.
specialize in that.
Yep.
And I've always told people like friendship and loyalty for me go a long, long way. And there's a lot of people, and I don't care to say it. I mean, there's people in barbecue that people are like, oh man, fuck him.
Right.
But like,
Don't talk about Greg like that.
I am a
Yeah.
firm
Yeah.
believer. Like until you fuck me or stick, you know what I mean? Until you do me
Right.
dirty, like I'll be
Right.
cordial to you.
Absolutely. That's the way it should be. Right?
And the thing of it is there's just a lot of good friendships that I never thought would go that way, and it's tough, man. When especially you think about it, there's people, things happen in this world, and life is life, but there's things that happen to people that affect you, and it's crazy that something like that stemmed from barbecue.
Yeah.
You became that close to somebody.
Well, and that's again part of what this is, and what we titled is Barbecue Life, right? It's Barbecue Life TV. It's stuff. We got some other things we're wanting to try and do, but you said it. You said it's kind of cliche sometimes. Say we got barbecue friends, and we kind of stop short because it gets overused a lot. Barbecue family,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's almost immediate when you come out. You talk about barbecue family. It draws people in, and we need for that to stay that way. I think I call it cliche sometimes because I think a lot of family, right? But what we do have is barbecue family, and I talk about it like in the off season, we're going out to dinner with Joel and Ryan and Christy and Aaron and Dan and Angie and Bree and Brad, just friends that are in our area that we hang out with. And that's family. And then one gets cancer and fights cancer, survives cancer. You're close to that. You know, Christy and Aaron had a baby that was little, and we've watched Reagan grow up to be, and just like we watch Peyton now when you come around, when she comes around. But then they go and have another one, and now they have another new baby. And that to us is what we call that barbecue life. It's one of the things we think about. Some people think we do this for a living.
Yeah.
And we don't do this for a living. We got jobs.
Just the opposite.
Right? We're not. Rod Gray has been one of the fortunate people I know that could do this for a living, and there's a couple others, right? But to watch them and understand, you, Joe, Brad, right? You guys got restaurants. We understand what the restaurant industry does. You've got a business now.
Yeah.
I'm making my business my priority, and man, I want to be out here. I want to be out here every week. I really do. Until I get out here every week, and then I'm like, doubles, fuck this shit. I'm not doing this, in the 102 degree heat. But
it's one of those things. Like I said, it's your end game. Like, what is your end game? And like, dude, we could run 40 comps a year for the next 10 years.
And what's it mean?
You could win Team of the Year 3 times. You could win 8 majors. And none of that helps your barbecue store get any more people to buy Napoleon grills.
It doesn't. Nope.
You know what I'm saying? And like, if I win the Jack, it helps the restaurant a ton.
Right.
If I win this competition this week, people will see the post and they'll see the trophy, but nobody's like, I need to go over there and get a pork steak. Like,
exactly.
It doesn't translate to helping the business. So when people see we have barbecue businesses and think that, like, you know, oh, you do this, our businesses are suffering because we're cooking 40 comps a year. They're not benefiting.
100%. And that's why I can't, I'm in a tough industry too in retail, right? And what it is, and just trying to fight the certain things. I wouldn't have it any other way because I get to work in barbecue and I get to do it. I get to work with my son. You know, there's things like that are invaluable. But it's kind of it's kind of a thing that I want to be out here and I want to do this. And I'll be honest with you, that's where this is coming from. It's like I told Bree, I just out of nowhere, I hadn't been planning this. I literally don't listen to many podcasts. I listen to yours. I listen to Luke's. I used to listen to the Barbecue Central radio show when it was about competition. And I didn't really aspire to do this. And I just thought, Bree, let's go do a podcast on Friday nights. Let's do something different. And it's these interviews that we get in some podcasts, and I don't discredit them because I like them. I value them. But these over the internet, over the phone, and they just lose something, right? Yeah. I want to sit in front of you and I want to talk. I want this to be Friday night. I want to tell the stories and the bullshit.
Well, and
get lubed up a little bit and tell the real stories. But
if you cook competition barbecue and you love competition barbecue, you listen to the shows, right? We've all heard how Brad got his start. Right. We've all heard this over and over. Yeah. So let's hear something about a guy like Brad that no one's ever asked. And that's what these types of things bring up. Because you're sitting around bullshit with your buddies like you would if there was a solo stove between us. Right.
Yep. And Bree wants a solo stove between us. It just happens to be 105 in the middle of July right now. So
the problem
I have the solo stove. I'm not doing it.
The problem with the solo stove is that you can't hear the person on the other side of the fire.
On the other side, I know. And I was telling her, if we have, she goes, well, we got lavalier mics. We'll just do the lapel mics. And I'm like, no. We're doing this right.
Did you explain to her that doesn't work because all the barbecue guys got beards?
And big chins.
Right.
Big chin. Well, yeah, fat chin. It's
like 3 or 4 inch. I hide my lack of a chin behind the beard. It's the real reason.
They
don't have a chin. I'm a bragger. Right.
They say beards are like push-up bras for men.
It basically is. Yeah. It's all of my confidence is right here.
Well, 100%.
I have the world's shittiest beard and I still rock it. It's like it's a bonus.
Not to backtrack to the barbecue family thing. I've got a quick story about Chris. So the first year that I cooked was 2021. We were a backyard team. Chris doesn't know me for anybody. I mean, he's seen me around because we cooked a lot then.
You're a backyard team.
I was a backyard team, right? So
they're
anyway,
like second-class citizens.
Exactly.
Yeah, so,
at least.
But anyway, this is kind of why I
we
like
are
this
just
story.
kidding. Let's put that disclaimer out right now.
That's why I like this story. So the weekend of the World Invitational, when it was in Shawnee, Oklahoma, my mom got rushed to the hospital with toxic shock. And I went to Oklahoma, even though she was getting to the hospital because there was nothing I could do. There were still COVID protocols. I couldn't go. I couldn't see her, couldn't do anything. So the only thing I could think to do was to go, and cook and at least take my mind off it. It's what my dad told me to do. So anyway, we cook that contest. We immediately leave the next morning to drive home. I get back home. Unfortunately, my mom passes away.
Sorry to hear that.
So we get to, I get back to St. Charles, which is where I grew up, which is where Chris lives and where his restaurant is. And, you know, I'm kind of beside myself. I don't really know what's going on. Luckily, I had, you know, all the barbecue family around me for that whole weekend, so that was great. But my dad tells me, oh, we've got some family that want to come over on Thursday, and they'd like, they'd like you to cook or do whatever. I'm like, well, shit. I didn't bring anything. We literally got back to Kansas City. I dropped off all of my shit, packed, my wife ran in, grabbed me a bag. I jumped in the truck and started driving to St. Louis. So anyway, I asked for Chris's number from Joel, and he gives me his phone number. So I text Chris and I go, hey, I'm Ryan, whatever. And we've talked a couple times by this point, but I wouldn't say we knew each other very well. And I said, hey, is there any way I can borrow a drum so I can cook something? My family's coming over on Thursday. This is what's going on. He goes, absolutely, man. Whatever you need, come pick up the drum. I've got rub for you. If you need charcoal, we're good. Hell, if you want to just come cook this shit here, you can come cook it here. The dude did not need to do that for me, and it's something that to this day, huge, unbelievable respect.
Appreciate that, man.
But
You're gonna make people think I'm a good guy.
Yeah,
I've got a reputation.
Yeah,
to
so
uphold.
you tell another story to fuck that up, but that's a good.
Well, he's already done that. I mean,
Right.
Tell the story about you punting a kitten.
Yeah.
Which time?
It's funny.
The thing is, though, is now Ryan's a better cook than me, so I'm probably gonna push him over on the way to Thursday.
Exactly. Trip him or something. He's by himself, so definitely make him do that. No, that I hadn't heard that part of that story. We were connected through that series of events, right?
Ryan should tell you
it was
about
heartbreaking.
Ryan should tell you about when I made him sit next to Hickory Hangover in my class.
Yeah, so I had already signed up for Chris's
Pick the
class, which
backyard
was a couple
guys
weeks
together.
after this, and so I had come, I came back to St. Louis to take Chris's class, and so I finished Team of the Year in backyard in second place in both categories, chicken and ribs, and I think the team that beat me in ribs was Hickory Hangover. So I walk into Collinsville Barbecue. Where the class is being held, and Shaver just goes, I have a seat for you. And he goes, Ryan,
This is
meet
why I'm
Hickory
nothing like
Hangover.
him. This is why I'm just gonna go ahead and solidify it. Nothing like him.
Here's the real story behind it, though. So I sponsor Hickory Hangover, right? And so I know those guys real well, and they wouldn't stop talking about Ryan slaughtering backyards and how he needs to go pro and how it's bullshit. And they won't get mad at me saying this, but I literally asked Brian, I said, how many years have you been cooking backyard? He's like, well, 5. So Ryan's cooked 1 year of backyard. He's in an area where backyard doesn't exist like the South. He's a product of his atmosphere. And it's not his fault that he's whooping their asses, right? And so I had told them, and I'm friends with them. I told them multiple times, like, you got to shut up because this dude's one of the best dudes you'll ever meet. Just so happens he's in an area where he's going to slaughter backyards. So as soon as he walked in, I was like, you two are going to be friends by the end of this weekend. And I said, and I think you guys came away better friends.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, because honestly, the weird thing about it is even though we both cooked backyard and we both cooked the Invitational, I hadn't had a chance to meet him.
Yeah.
Because everybody was so spread out at that contest, but also just geographically, we never ran into each other.
Yeah. So I had good intentions.
Yeah. It was funny. Ryan is very respected in the backyard division. I don't know if they didn't respect him, and in our division now, in the master division.
Is Fluffy Butt pro now?
So actually, yeah. I don't even want to get into this because, yes, I think so. Now he's going to be doing backyard tomorrow.
Not Sunday,
not Sunday. He's coming out to do backyard Sunday. That was a funny story.
How many pro can you cook before?
12.
12?
Yeah,
12.
3
As long as you don't win one,
As long as you don't
3
Ryan Cain one.
So
We've already talked
How does it
about
feel to be a verb?
a verb.
At least it's a positive one.
I know
Right?
that funny story with Devin.
I never would have thought that had been the case.
Devin actually started, he wanted to get into competition bar. We're doing the store, right? And he's learned so much. He's doing whatever last year. And he goes, man, I think I'm going to do backyard. I said, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, man, I see what Ryan does. And I said, well, we were talking. He goes, I think I'm going to go do the American Raw. And I said, I don't know why you wouldn't. Let's work on it. I said, let's get you practicing chicken. Let's get you doing ribs. And I said, shit, Ryan's going to be there. Let's go beat his ass. I mean, let's go whip him.
Yeah.
He goes, I said, I'll teach you a few things that you go home and practice. So he just, man, he's like everybody, right? Obsessed about, he jumps in, he starts practicing, and he goes, I'm going to the American Raw, and he pulls off a first place chicken and a 5th place overall, and shit, he's hooked, right? So he starts cooking it for me. He goes down to Derby where Ryan caned himself, and they're in a tornado. He goes down there and he wins the whole thing, wins a GC.
Yeah.
And we really didn't have time to send him out to cook, and he goes, you think I ought to chase? And we had heard that year that there was going to be an overall for backyard. It turns out there wasn't, but there was going to be an overall. So it's what we thought. So Ryan's out, and Devin does it. He goes to, I don't know what other one did he go to. He went to a couple other comps. He GC'd those.
Yeah,
and then he was second. And then they're going down to Tahlequah, which everybody was waiting for Tahlequah in September.
It was a pretty seamless transition for him to just slide in there and take over.
It really was, and he really kind of did take over, at least around here. And I think he only cooked 10 times, but he goes down to Tahlequah. Man, there was some heavy people for a backyard down there.
It was a good contest. I think it was a
contest.
35-team just backyard contest.
And he was literally scared. He's like, man, I haven't cooked against all these teams. I don't know. I said, dude, just go do your thing, right? And and then he had to cook pork. He never cooked pork. So we're practicing pork. I've shown him how to trim it and what a and trying to get to a money muscle and all this stuff. He goes down there to Tahlequah and takes, second day 1, second day 2, overall GC for the whole weekend.
Brings home a drum, doesn't he?
He brings home a drum. He gets a Hunsaker drum. He was going to actually use it for brisket. And then he just bought a drum for brisket when he got into the Masters in Cameron. He goes, I'm not using that. It's a trophy. I went, well, yeah, it's a trophy. It's a big ass trophy. It's in the way.
Yeah.
It's a Hunsaker. I'd sell it. Get a gateway.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that. Yeah,
I was going to say,
I'm going to say that.
At least it's not recorded.
Like to give a shout out to one of the show sponsors, Mark Hunsaker.
Yeah, nothing against a Hunsaker, boys. I prefer Gateway. Timmy, well, I don't know why. I don't prefer any of them cans at all. So it's just one of those things. But Devin, so we're sitting
Aren't you on a dub pit?
I am on a dub pit. Yeah, I don't got
Yes, you have
can.
no allegiance.
I own a can, but I don't. It sits outside and it's rusting. I did a cool story with Devin. It happened a few months ago. We're in the storm where he wasn't there. He was a day off. I think it was on a Sunday. God, I can't remember the name too. This backyard team comes in and, we cook backyard and we were down in Oklahoma and we're down in Tahlequah and he's like, he was talking about things and he was wanting to learn some things and I'm going over stuff and he goes, yeah, there was this guy down there, man. He did really well and his name was Fluffy Butt. I said, Fluffy Butt Barbecue. And he goes, yeah. I said, well, that's my son. I said, he works here. He goes, that's your son? And as soon as I said this is no shit. As soon as I said this, Devin comes walking through the back door. He was practicing that day and was getting a can. And he walks in. I go, hey, there's Fluffy Butt right there. And he looks, oh, my God. And it was literally a celebrity moment. I was laughing. I was sitting in the chair giggling like a little girl laughing. These guys loved it, and they start talking to Devin, and they're just doing whatever. And when they left, I told them what they did. He just kind of laughed, and I went, dude, you're like a rock star, man. What's going on? I don't understand. And then he doesn't look at himself that way, but I'm teasing him, and it was a funny story. But
well, think of it from this perspective, right? So a brand new team comes out, and they decide they're going to cook backyard. Trying to befriend you guys is kind of unattainable, right? You're in your trailers, you know who you know everybody that, they've seen Brad, they've seen Tim, they've seen Joe, whatever. They know what you guys have done, but they don't know the backyard guys. So you see a backyard guy come out and win, and they go, oh, wow, that's my, so that's my Joe, that's my, that's whatever. It's attainable, but it's great. I think it's really good for the activity overall that there are those people that even, a brand new backyard team can go, that's the guy I want to be like. And it doesn't have to seem so unattainable.
Right.
It's a weird thing in barbecue is like it's very generational. And so like, we look at Tuffy, Darren, we look at those guys. These guys that are starting now, they're looking at Joe. They're looking
and
at
and
Brad, and so they're looking at a whole different crew. I was in Florida last year cooking a comp, and this young kid came up, and he was treating me like I was Myron Mixon. He was like nervous to talk to me, and it was very awkward, honestly. But he's like, man, it's just cool to cook against guys like you and whatever. And I literally said, I go, Darren's right over there. And the guy said, Darren who?
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, my God. And then Darren won the comp. So I was super happy.
That's Darren who.
But the guy said, Darren who? And I was like, there's a generation of guys out here cooking competition barbecue that don't know these guys. Right. Like, I feel like, you're a big Pat Burke guy, Mike Mills and like I Paul Kirk, It's crazy that there's people out here that don't even know who those guys are.
And this is becoming the shame. Yes. Of it, right? And where maybe we're dropping off and we're missing things and we're not keeping our mentors, our elite guys alive, even though they're not here. We understand why they're not here, right? It's a grind. We just can't keep going the way we go. But
anybody that gets the bug right now, I was thinking about this the other day because I was listening to an old podcast with Tim Shear, right?
Yeah.
Anybody that starts right now and gets the bug and they hit hard, they might even be cooking 40 comps a year in a few years, will not know who Bill Arnold was.
right.
They will see Tim, they will see Blues Hog, and Tim's done incredible things with Blues Hog.
Right.
But they won't even know who Bill Arnold is.
100%.
You know, where like I remember cooking. This is a great story. I remember cooking in Wellsville, Missouri, and Bill Arnold comes out of a Johnny. And no, he's trying to go in a Johnny. Another guy's trying to go at the same time. And the guy was like, "Oh, sorry, Bill." And he's like, "Hey, you want to cross swords?" And Bill looks at him like, "What in the fuck?" And so that guy that comes out, Bill's like, "Did you hear that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I heard that." But yeah, this guy asked Bill Arnold if he wanted to cross swords in the Johnny. But still, you know, I remember, like I said, being at comps and seeing that dude out there, you know?
It was probably Tim Shear. That was probably when they met.
Yeah.
Was that Tim Shear?
No.
Tim, are you crossing swords with Bill? Are you trying? No, that's funny. That's,
I have great conversations outside of Johnny's. I was in Osage City, Kansas, after winning the KCBS Invitational, and you know, I won the Invitational being primarily a SLBS cook, you know, and I think under Heavy Smoke I had maybe 8.
that
like
Little
me-
Rock year.
Yeah. I had maybe 8 comps as Heavy Smoke for KCBS, right?
Yeah.
And I was coming out of a Johnny, and a guy's like, "Hey, you're Heavy Smoke." I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "How in the fuck did you win the KCBS Invitational, like your 8th ever cook?" And I go, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh, we pulled up barbecue data. You've cooked like 8 comps." I was like, I've cooked 80 comps. And he's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "I cook a different sanctioning body." And he was like, "Oh." And I was like, coming out of the Johnny. The guy was literally like, "How in the hell?" I was like,
Was that me?
It was.
It was not me.
It was right
That
after
was me. Because I literally,
It was
at
right after
Little
we
Rock,
crossed
when you won
swords.
Little Rock, was serious. right when you won Little Rock, of course, we're watching it, and that was one I'm pissed off. I wanted to go to that one.
Yeah.
And Beck's like, "We are not traveling to Arkansas in the middle of February. We're going to get in an ice storm. We're not." I said, "Beck, here it is right here. 5 years of history. It's 55 to 60 in Little Rock in February 17th, 24th, whatever it was. Every single year for 5 years. It's that." I said, "We're going. We need to go. We're qualified. We're not always going to be qualified."
Yep.
And she goes, "I'm not going. I don't care what you. I'm not going." I was like, "Fine, fuck it. We ain't going." So I didn't go. Sure as shit, all the Kansas City people drove through a 27-degree ice storm all the way down there. It was the most terrible weather in the world. And Becky's just sitting there going,
It took me
I'm like, "Listen."
It took me 6 hours to get there and like 10 hours to get home because like we drove back through the ice pulling a trailer.
Pulling a trailer.
Yeah, it was
Becky
rough.
would have been freaking out. So when you won that, I'm like, "God, who the fuck is Heavy Smoke?"
Well,
Because you're SLB. Honest to God, I didn't know. The name sounded familiar for some reason, but we didn't know you.
Yeah.
And you weren't definitely cooking up in Kansas City
no.
at that time at all. So I was like, "Man, I don't know who this is." And I saw the pictures. I still didn't know. So we saw you at Osage City then.
Yeah. It might have been you.
It might have been me. I think it might have been.
Might have been.
Because that sounds like me. I mean, I would
It
say
does.
that. I would say that. Who the fuck are you? How'd you win that?
100%.
We have a lot of fun together. We're getting on our hour. Peyton's gonna come out here and kick you in the butt, but
Oh, she's pissed already.
yeah, we.
And we don't have enough service here for her Roblox to work. And
Oh no. I had a funny story with Devin. He didn't know how to take you when he knew that. You remember Sugar Creek?
you could tell this story?
Yeah, I will.
Do it.
Should I not?
Oh, I love it.
So we're in Sugar Creek and the store is just open, and we got Chris's rubs on the wall.
I know this.
We got Chris's rubs on the wall, and we're trying to sell them. And I don't know how it got brought up, but I was talking to you, and you saw some picture.
Well, no, so you were like, I was like, you don't even have them on the shelf or something.
Right,
And
yeah.
you're like, no, I got a picture.
Yeah.
And when you showed me the picture, one of my rubs was like kind of behind a pole on the shelf.
We have steel pipe, plumbing pipe for shelves, and
he was
literally it's right behind the pole.
Greg
I mean,
was like-
it is limited vision,
Greg was like, well, that's Devin. Devin puts the stuff out there and everything. He throws Devin completely under the bus.
which was 100% true. It
so-
is all Devin.
So I said, give me Devin's number. And he's like, what? I said, give me Devin's number. He gives me his number, and I text him. I'm like, really? Behind the pole? He doesn't reply. You know, he's like, the hell? And I'm like,
And then You said
Don't
something else.
ignore me.
Yeah, don't ignore me. What the hell, man? You're putting my
And then-
rubs behind the pole?
Yeah. And it was like, I sent like 4 or 5 messages not mentioning rubs at all. Just seeing if he would reply, like, just tell me to eat shit or something, you know?
Right.
And then I said something about, you know, how am I going to sell rubs behind the pole or something? He ended up blocking me.
He never.
He never replied, and he blocked my number.
He never responded to Chris. And I'm sitting there at their site, and Pops and him and I were talking, and I went, "Wow, let me call him. Shit, I'll call him." I said, "Devin, hey, are you getting messages from Chris?" He goes, "Who?" I said, "Schaefer." I said, "Messages about his rub being stuck behind a pole or something." He goes, "Oh, shit, I blocked that. I didn't know who the hell that was."
It's the ultimate go to
I
hell.
said, "Well, do me a favor, unblock his phone number so when he calls you sometime, you'll get the phone." But he goes, I didn't know who the hell was bothering me. I didn't know about no rubs behind
Can
a
you
pole. I
imagine-
didn't know what he was talking about.
Can you imagine the first text from a number you don't know is like, really? Behind the
Behind
pole?
the pole. Devin doesn't suffer much, man. He does okay. So do you have a mentor in barbecue? I want to ask Jordan, do you have a mentor in barbecue, someone you followed and inspired you to do what you do today and has helped you through it?
Yeah, you know, so in the very beginning, I leaned on a guy, Dylan Lipe. He used to compete years ago, and he's got a few restaurants. And really, in the very beginning, he really was like an open book. Any question, just to kind of get me on the right track.
Right.
I really leaned on him for quite some time. And then honestly, I had bought a whole trailer and pit from a guy, Brad Cox, in Illinois, local yokels. And he's not a guy who cooks a ton, but he's always
Cooks
consistent.
well.
Always in the mix.
He's a neat dude. He come in the store the first year I was open for the American Roll, and he called me ahead of time and said, "Hey, do you have any Marble Ridge briskets?" I said, "Yeah, I got, I think, 5 or 6." And he goes, "I want them all. What
That's
size
it.
are they?" Because I want them all.
That's
I
it.
said, "Okay." And he came in with his family. Orange shirts and everything, came in with his family. He's a neat old dude. So
He is as solid as they come.
Before you move to somebody else, because I know you got more people, I got a great Brad Cox story.
Okay.
So he had vehicle trouble or something on the way to the KCBS Invitational when I won it.
right.
So we're sitting at the Jack, and everybody had gone to bed, and it's
Now,
just
you've
it's just
won 2 of them. Number 1 or number 2?
it was the first one.
Okay.
And so
Shameless plug.
yeah.
The other one was the open.
Oh, it was not the.
The other one
invitation.
was where they said the wrong name. The other one was where I won as "Come on up, readers, Heavy Smoke. There's no place like smoke, Heavy Smoke."
Everyone was like, yeah, no, oh, shit. Oh, gosh. Congrats,
So-
Chris. Sorry, Wade.
I don't know if I've ever told the story before. So everybody going to bed, and I was like, I'm not ready for bed. And Brad's like, yeah, me neither. So me and Brad just sat up around the fire for like another hour just bullshitting. And we're talking, and Brad just like light bulb moment. And he goes, "You're going to win the Jack." And I said, "What?" And he goes, "I had all kinds of trouble getting down to down to Arkansas." He goes, "And then you won the Jack." And he had a bunch of trouble getting to the Jack this year. Had vehicle trouble, or I don't remember exactly what it was. We had a bunch of trouble. And he's like, "You're going to win the Jack. It's just like the KCBS Invitational. You're going to win." And if you watch like LC's video of me walking to the stage, I round the corner and Brad's got arm in the air and he goes, "I told you." But dude, I swear to God, we're sitting around bullshit and he just light bulb moment and goes, "You're going to win the Jack."
Oh wow.
And I was like, pretty awesome.
He's a neat dude.
So now I cut his brake lines every major. Every major I have somebody go
Sorry,
cut
Brad,
his
you're gonna
brake
have
lines.
troubles. Just pack some stuff and you're gonna have some trouble every time.
Yeah, but I mean, Brad, he just. I bought his trailer, and if you get to know Brad, he's the type of guy, like, I literally went to buy his trailer, ended up buying his pit that I didn't plan on buying, and he was like, "Stay for dinner." And we were like, I
Okay.
don't really know this guy, but cool. And then he was like, "No, seriously, we're cooking a whole bunch of food. There's a bunch of people there." And I remember my oldest son was with me, and he was like, "Are we really going to stay here?" I was like, "Get a plate."
Be
Shit.
polite. Yeah.
So I remember
And
we
they
sat.
cook such amazing
We
food.
sat down, and I'm not a huge fish eater, but they were frying fish, and I was like, just being kind, you know. I literally took a bite, and I looked at Allie. I was like, "You better fucking get a plate." And she was like, "What?"
I'm
I was
eating
like,
yours.
I was like, "This shit is legit. Get it."
Yeah.
So anyway, Brad really, I leaned on him as far like we kind of honestly, he had been cooking prior to me, but we really started coming up. We shared a lot, you know, done a lot of practice cooks together, and I still lean on him. I talk to him every day pretty much, but him and then Tim, this year.
Yeah.
You know, I met Tim my very first contest, and he was always, you talk about like addressing like a top tier team, or especially as like a backyard guy or new guy. It was so weird for me because I don't know what the deal was, but like Tim and I just kind of hit it off from the jump, and he was always just the very first time I met him until still today, you know, just always just genuinely nice to me and willing to help me. He's always like, you don't cook on Gans. I'm like, right, I know, but could you help me? You know, so, and I think that's the big thing. And he pretty much told me one time, he's like, you know, a lot of people hit me up for a lot of things. And he's like, you never did. And he's like, that went far for me. Because I was always kind of the opposite. Like, I never wanted to try to talk to like a big dog and feel like I was trying to nip at their heels and try to get crumbs, you know? So I almost may have seemed like I was standoffish, like I didn't want to. I just, you know how it is. I mean, everyone wants to get a piece of what's big, you know? And I was always just like, man, I'm going to try to figure this thing out and not bother them, because eventually, like, my goal is I want to be good enough where they respect me, not trying to get it. Now, obviously, I paid for it for the class, but I didn't get it for free, damn it. But no, so yeah, I mean, there's a ton of people. Just like, I mean, you meet people along the way, and at different levels, you know. Just like Chris, you know, I was kind of right there on chicken, and just like that, you know, I wasn't even asking Chris. I was more so telling him like, this pissing me off. I can't get this to hit right, and he was just like open book, like, hey man, like, try this. It worked out. And really, we don't realize that, but that's probably the biggest thing with not being scared to talk to people. You just shut up and listen.
Shut up and listen. I think that's one of the things Ryan said. I've always been scared to. I've always been nervous to. I mean, not today, but just all those years back, I couldn't approach Brad or Tim. I always just felt like, you know.
Joe is the easiest to approach.
Joe is absolutely the easiest.
Joe actually asked me in. I can't think of where you were having generator problems, where him and Brad did.
Which time?
Help me out. Where they did the rolling double.
The rolling double. It could have been Baldwin.
Yeah, that's exactly where it was. Where it was at the. Where
it was on the golf course? No. Oh, Excelsior Springs.
It was at Baldwin, but I think it was the year before.
It was the year before.
When it was on the bricks.
Yes.
When it was on the bricks.
Anyway, Joe actually was like, "What's the deal? Like, I tried to talk to you. You don't talk to me." And I didn't know who he was. I was like, I mean, are you wanting to be my friend? he was like, no, man.
Jordan passes the notes, like, check yes or no.
He was like, what? Because he was like trying to carry conversation. I was like, all right, you know, like, I knew who he was, but I was just like answering his questions. Finally, he's like, what's the deal? I was like, I don't have a deal.
No.
He was like, literally, I was like, are you want to be my friend or something? Shit.
I have a theory about Joe that if he respects you, he'll bust your balls. If he doesn't, he won't give you the time of day. Not saying he won't give you the time of day, but you're not going to get the honest, unfiltered.
If he is mean to you and he talks to you and he is hardcore teasing, he loves you. He's good, and he loves me. I mean, we're brothers.
That means he likes me a lot.
It's 100%. But if he ain't talking to you, then he either don't know you, he don't like you. But
the best Joe comment, I said, they're like, hey, you come out of this competition? And I was like, man, I just never do well there. And Chris, you know how Joe is.
Yeah.
He goes, man, Chris, if you only go to comps you do well at, I mean, you're only going to cook 4 or 5 a year.
My favorite story with Joe is 2015, my first contest, right? I had taken Rod Gray's class, and it was always private when you took Rod Gray's class, which I could care less. But I pulled into Grandview. I signed up that week, and I was like, shit, I got to rip the Band-Aid off. I just got to do this. And my first comp, I roll into Grandview, and I had been following Barbecue Central Radio Show. I had gone to the Royal 2014, so I knew who Dirt Road was. I knew who Joe was. I watched Pitmasters. I knew who Rod Gray was. I took his class. Then several other teams. Well, first thing I did, I pulled up, and they put me next to Joe, which I didn't know who it was. It was just a red trailer. I'm next to Joe. And Joe comes out, and he comes wandering over. And I knew him because I had watched all the Pitmaster shows, right? And I knew what he had done. And Joe walks up, and he goes, hey. He goes, I'm Joe Pierce of Squeal Like a Pig. I've got a restaurant downtown. He was just introducing himself. And I said, oh, cool, I know who you are. I looked at him. I said, I know exactly who you are. I saw the TV show. I watched that. And I said, man, I just got to say something. And I looked him straight in the face, and I said, what is this bullshit you losing some guy from Georgia on pit masters? And I said it just like that. Now, I don't know this guy from a hole in the wall. I don't know why I did that because I don't know him. He introduced himself. He's being a nice guy.
Have you met you?
No.
I know why you said that.
We had never. Literally, I'm a dick. So I looked right at him and I said, I just can't. How do you lose to that guy from Georgia? I can't believe that. And he looked me dead straight in the face and he goes, yeah, we don't talk about that. He didn't laugh. He didn't miss a beat. And I went, oh, shit, I did it now. This is a guy I like. I was just busting his balls. I was just trying to mess with him. I don't even know this guy, and I'm joking with him. And he looked me dead in the face, and I was like, oh, shit. And I felt like about this big, and I was getting ready to walk away, and he goes, yeah, I'm just fucking with you, man. He goes, that did so. And the entire contest. So it's the greatest story. It's probably why I'm hooked to barbecue and whatnot. I'm in my trailer, and he knew I had taken Rod's class. We had some conversations the rest of Friday, and we were talking, and I'm cooking my chicken. I'm like, God damn it, I'm in my trailer. I'm cussing, and my ramp's down, and I'm throwing a fit, and I'm like, he comes over, and he goes, what is going on? Right during the middle of getting ready for chicken, he comes over, and he goes, what is going on? I said, my chicken's way over. It's 200 and something, blah, 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 and it looks like shit. And he goes, why are you temping your chicken? Why are you temping it? And I went, I don't know. What should I do? He goes, it's 2 hours, man. We've taken the same class. Cook the chicken in a pan, cover it up, 2 hours. It'll be done. You'll be fine. I said, okay. He goes, just calm down. So we get the ribs. I blow my ribs out. I'm cutting the ribs, and they're shit. I get them boxed. I send Kevin, and you got to realize I've been coaching boys football for 13 years and running baseball leagues and been coaching. Listen, I'm just stupid intense, right? I'm screaming. I'm mother effing everything in the world, and you can hear me out of my trailer, and I'm literally having a meltdown. Joe just comes walking up my back porch, right? He's walking up to my porch, and he goes, hey, what the hell is going on in here? Goddamn ribs are shit. This is going to be terrible. I shouldn't be here. And he goes, can I have one? Can I try one? I said, yeah, whatever. You can have one. And he takes one, and he looks at it, and he takes a bite, and he goes, you need to shut the fuck up. He goes, this is not last place rib. Would you shut up and just do your job? Just get through this turn in, just do your job. You're going to be okay, man. Calm down. You're going to be all right. So for whatever reason, I think I calmed down. Kevin and Becky were out there with me, and I think they were embarrassed. We turned in pork. We turned in brisket. And I tell this story not online to anybody, but it turns out it was the Rod Gray.
Well, you're about to.
Yeah, I know. It turns out it was the Rod Gray street killer. Looks like we just lost one. It was a Rod Gray street killer. He took first in chicken, first in ribs, and first in brisket. Well, I took second in chicken. I took 10th in ribs, so I didn't get blasted. We took first in pork and won the pork category. My first contest, mind you. And then we took second in brisket. We RGC'd this contest. And if I go back and I look at those pictures, it's literally the ugliest shit in the world. I felt like I stole something. They kept calling our name, and I'm walking up there, and I'm like, oh, God, man, this is bad. This can't be right. And Rod's just got his head down, and he's just kind of smiling and shaking my hand. And, man, that's where it sank. And then Joe just took off after that, and he goes, where are you cooking next? I wasn't even going to cook 3 contests. And, he's like, where are you going to cook next? And I said, I don't know. I wasn't planning on cooking. So I ended up doing 9 that year instead of 3. But he called me, and this is when we talk about people, right? He called me, and he goes, hey, I'm going out to Rossville. You want to come out and help me? You want to run boxes and hang out in the trailer? And he's inviting me to his trailer, and going out to hang out with him. We got 28 that day, so I was never invited back. He told me, you'll never come back again.
Well, I cooked 2019 is really when I started cooking KCBS. After winning the Invitational, I'm like, oh, maybe I can cook some of these, I was in Nevada, Missouri, and I knew none of you guys, right? It was my first time in Kansas City, really. And Joe was walking by, and I'm like, that's fucking Joe Pierce. Right. And my dad's like, what? And I'm like, that's Joe Pierce. Like, my dad's always like, who's Joe Pierce, right? My dad, still says, who's Joe Pierce? He doesn't know. But I'm like, that's Joe. I'm freaking out, kind of fangirling out. Yeah. Joe just walks over. Hey, what's up, man? And I'm like, hey. And then, immediately it's like, oh, so he's a regular dude like us. You know what I mean? But I went from fangirling out to oh, I could be boys with this guy right off the bat. My daughter texted me just now and said,
hurry the hell up. What are you doing?
She actually said, you're 27 minutes late because I told her 1 hour.
So it took
I was
us a while
actually
to
sitting
get.
here going, shit, where's Hayes?
And then I said, and then I,
just,
and then I said,
Allie, he's sitting right here with me. You just can't see him.
I said,
Is he asleep?
Okay.
Peyton says you're 27 minutes late, and I said, "Well, get your jammies on. I'll be there in a minute." She said, "I've had my jammies on for over an hour."
Hey, I will say this. I walked into Chris's trailer and he was like, Jordan, this is Peyton. Peyton, this is Jordan. Jordan, she will not speak to you. So I was like, that's cool. I was like, so nod your head. Are you excited about Kids Q? She nodded her head, yes. And I was like, I'm in. So then I was like waiting for a minute. I was like, so you making a burger or what you making? Boy, she opened the book. She was like, here you go. She started popping things open. I'm trying it. It's like, all right, this will work out.
I'll tell you a real quick story that proves that she's my kid. We're go to Colorado out of Frisco, and she's cooking the Kids Q. That's her second ever Kids Q. And on the way, she goes, Daddy, wouldn't it be really cool if we both won? And I'm like, yeah, it'd be awesome. Probably not going to happen. I've never cooked in Colorado, you know. I'm borrowing pits. I'm cooking under a tent, you know. Probably not going to happen, right? So I get a second, 29th, and finish fourth overall. She wins Kids Q. And we're leaving, and I was like, yeah, it would have been really cool. It was close or whatever. And she goes, I did my part. I'm just like, that's my kid, man. Like, that's exactly what if Jordan said, would it be cool if we went 1 and 2? That's exactly what I would have said to Jordan. Hey, I did my part.
Yeah, your Facebook posts kill me, man. Whenever you put them up there, me and then Peyton, and she just is incredible. So,
I got one on the
so
way
funny.
here that I haven't posted yet. She goes, Daddy, have you been everywhere in the U.S.? And I said, I haven't. You know, I've been to a lot of places. And she goes, I'm going to list some states. You tell me if you've been there. Deal. And she goes, all right, Russia. and I've never laughed so hard. I almost crashed my truck. She
So
says
this is-
Russia. And I'm like, what is going on right now?
I know we got to wrap this up, but this is why man, kids crack me up. So Reagan, Mini Meat, comes over to my trailer. Her and Hayes are talking, and they're sitting there in the floor, and I was like prepping meat, and I'm listening to them, and Hayes is like, Daddy, because literally, if he sees Chris's trailer, when we pull in, I am not shit. He was like, can we go see Chris and Eddie? I'm like, well, give me a minute, and we'll go down there. No, I'm going to go right now. I was like, no, just wait. So Reagan's like, or Hayes was like, Reagan, you want to go see Eddie? And she's like, Eddie? And she's just looking at him, and I'm like, he's like, yeah, Eddie, you know, wears glasses. Eddie, Chris, Eddie. And Reagan's like, I'm like, you know Eddie, Reagan, you know, with the sweethearts. She's like, Pops?
Pops?
Hayes goes, no, Eddie, I think you're confused. It's Eddie. And I was like, Hayes, no, that's not what she called it. He goes, well, that's not his name. And I'm like, all right, we're about to have a domestic in here. And Hayes,
I
like,
had a heated debate on whether his name is Eddie or Pops.
Barbecue
And
kids.
all I was
And then
thinking,
after awards, I said, after the Kids Q Awards, I go, Reagan, what's his name? She goes, Pops.
Pops. Hell yeah, it's Pops.
yeah. So
This has been fun, guys. We always have a last question we want to ask, and we probably ain't going to have a lot of time for it, but it's kind of a corny one. But we really like to figure out what people like at home. What do you like to cook at home? It doesn't have to be barbecue. It can be anything. What inspires you to cook? What do you want to cook at home that makes you happy?
I mean, I'm a steak and potato guy, but
Steak and potato.
I like spaghetti.
Spaghetti. I don't think a lot of people realize that I have a chef background, right? And so I'm way more chef than I am barbecue.
Right.
And so I love, you know, pasta and broccoli. You know, I love those types of things more than anything. Or like awesome breakfast. Like I grew up with the big breakfast you know, biscuits, gravy, potatoes, eggs, bacon, sausage, whatever. So like I like that kind of stuff. But I really dig like cooking fancy food, you know.
Really?
And so
You get
I
much
like
time to do it?
very little.
Yeah, that's
Also,
kind of the thing.
all
that
the
sucks, right?
stuff that you can cook that tastes delicious. Like I'm overweight. I have a heart issue. I have diabetes. And my doctor's like, yeah, don't eat any of that.
Don't
They're
eat
like,
any of it, yeah.
You should just live on like, you know, jerky and green beans.
Me and Chris last summer would literally talk, and I'd be like, dude, I'm trying to lose weight. I'm like, you want a cosmic brownie or what? He's like,
We
dude, I
started-
would
we
do. He goes,
started
I would
weight
do
loss?
good, and then he'd be like, yeah, man, like all day I did super good. Then I got home, and he's like, Danielle, I'd look at her and be like, you want pizza or?
Okay.
we did a weight loss challenge, and I think we both gained like 7 pounds.
He would text me on Thursdays, right?
Yeah, Thursday weigh-ins.
He would text me on Thursday, and I'd be like, "Not today, Chris. Not today." we took a break for like 4 weeks, and then he had lost some weight, and he texted me. He's like, "Hey, I'm doing all right. How you doing?" I'm like, "Terrible. I am doing awful."
I will tell you, I'm down 40 pounds the last 3 months.
Don't ask me.
So. You're Jason. You can't lose weight.
I'm gonna go eat a cosmic brownie for sure.
So that did bring up one other question that I want to ask both of you. What is the most underrated Little Debbie snack?
Oh shit.
We discussed this last week, and one of the guys on our team, Eric, he said cosmic brownies is like, I don't think those are underrated at all. Like, I think
strawberry roll.
those are like a first round draft.
The strawberry roll up are for sure, dude. They're
It has to be underrated. I
the
don't
pecan-
think I do that.
Is the
one.
pecan wheel
What?
Little Debbie?
you wouldn't what?
I don't know if the pecan wheel is Little Debbie or not.
If the pecan wheel is Little Debbie, I'm
gonna
picking
go
pecan
Swiss
wheel.
roll or
Swiss roll?
Or
How is it
Nutter-
underrated? That's
Nutter
probably the
Butters.
most.
This is by
Also a first round draft pick.
this is by no means underrated, but I'm a zebra cake guy.
Hey,
those are
they
the
got the
best.
zebra cake rolls now.
I've
The
watched
same
Joel
way
eat a
as the
box of those
strawberry
Christmas
roll.
Oh, really?
Hey, so
I'm not allowed to eat them, so I don't.
when
know.
I'm not allowed to either, but don't
the
tell.
guy, not to go on the huge story, but the guy that got me started in competition barbecue, Cole Hardy, used to have Cole Sweet Heat barbecue sauce. He doesn't really compete at all anymore. He was a Nutty Bar guy.
Yep.
And so he'd always have Nutty Bar in the freezer or whatever. And it got to the point that like I would go to comps knowing that he was just going to come hang out, and I'd have a box of Nutty Bars in the freezer
Yep.
because he would be like, "Hey, dude, where's the Nutty Bars?"
Keith from Love to Q has Nutty Bars.
I'm just gonna tell you.
Becky sent me with the Nutty Bars this weekend. She goes, "I know you're gonna bitch about where's the snacks."
No, go to Aaron from Man Meat's trailer after
he's
turn-ins.
got
He
ice
always
cream.
has ice cream.
But it's
He's standing
orange.
right here.
It's orange sorbet or
No,
something.
he had dude. He had chocolate. No, he had ice cream sandwiches.
If anybody wants to crack the code on how to like be friends with me, bring me DTs in the morning
Yeah.
and drumsticks after turn-ins.
Yeah, I don't have DTs.
I don't have a freezer, but that sounds awesome.
I'm gonna go. My kid's texting me.
No, your kid is texting.
I need to go
you.
locate my kid.
Hey guys,
I have to build my bed.
this has been a lot of fun. Hey, I'll say it. I really appreciate you guys coming on and being a part of this for us.
Appreciate you having us.
Tremendous honor having you on here. And guys, this is a barbecue life. This is what we want to do. We want to have a lot of fun. We want to get out to contests and talk to great people like these two. Jordan, Chris, thanks again. My sidekicks here, Joel and Ryan Cain. Appreciate you filling in and having some fun tonight. So for us in Osceola right now, this is it for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night. We'll have some more fun with some new people. So that's it. We out. Thank you, everybody.
Yep.